Let's face the hard truth. Most people are too afraid to tell you directly that they don't like you. Instead, they mask their true feelings behind fake smiles, hollow compliments, and superficial politeness. I've experienced this firsthand, mistaking someone for a friend, only to discover they were secretly relishing my setbacks. It's a harsh reality, but vital to acknowledge. If you miss the signs, you'll waste precious time and energy on those who fundamentally misunderstand you. So let's slice through the nonsense and discuss the telltale signs that someone dislikes you, but conceals it. The revelations might be uncomfortable, but confronting the truth is preferable to living in denial. One glaring sign is when someone constantly jokes about your flaws. We all know that one person who finds humor in your missteps, poking fun at your quirks, errors, and imperfections, all with a grin, claiming, "I'm just kidding." At first it seems harmless, but don't be deceived. These jokes often mask deeper, more spiteful intentions, subtly undermining your self-esteem piece by piece. Reflecting on a personal experience, I was close to someone who always had a critical remark about my appearance, speech, or projects. Initially, I dismissed it as friendly banter, but over time, a pattern emerged. The jokes targeted my vulnerabilities, never my strengths. This relentless focus made me doubt my abilities, wondering if I was as flawed as they implied. Here's the unsettling truth. People who habitually highlight your flaws under the guise of humor aren't showing affection, they're gauging your tolerance for disrespect. It's a nuanced form of manipulation, a way for them to assert control while subtly implying your inferiority. The most insidious aspect? They often get away with it because society has taught us that taking offense to a joke is a personal failing. However, it's time to reject that notion. There is nothing wrong with defending yourself when a joke goes too far. In fact, it's crucial. You deserve to be surrounded by people who elevate you, not those who demean you for a laugh. True friends will celebrate your strengths and support you through your weaknesses without making you the butt of their jokes. I've witnessed many people tolerate these demeaning jokes, believing it's better to maintain peace than to confront the issue. But here's a deeper truth. Permitting others to belittle you, even jokingly, sets a dangerous precedent. It starts with trivial remarks, but gradually, these can erode your self-esteem, leading you to question your value. The more you tolerate, the more emboldened they become, until you find yourself plagued by self-doubt, all because you didn't want to appear overly sensitive. Learning from my own experiences, I realized that by not objecting, I was inadvertently giving them the green light to continue. It was only when I began to assert myself and set clear boundaries that I noticed a change, not just in their behavior, but in my own self-perception. I reclaimed control over my story, refusing to let their perceptions define me. So, here's my advice. The next time someone makes a derogatory joke at your expense, don't just shrug it off. Ask yourself whether there's a deeper motive behind their humor. If so, don't hesitate to confront them. It may be uncomfortable and could potentially end the relationship, but your dignity is worth much more than their skewed sense of humor. Ultimately, life is too short to spend time with those who fail to recognize your worth. If their concept of friendship involves constantly highlighting your flaws, it might be time to seek better companions, those who genuinely value and uplift you. Stand firm, speak out, and never let anyone diminish you to just a punchline. Next, let's talk about backhanded compliments. Secondly, let's delve into the kind of compliments that sting like insults. We've all experienced it. Someone offers you what seems like praise, but the feeling it leaves behind is sour, like a velvet glove hiding a clenched fist. These backhanded compliments often leave you questioning, was that really a compliment, or was it an insult? The reality is, it's often both. This type of praise is a covert, almost cunning method people use to undermine you while maintaining the facade of kindness. I recall an incident when I was pouring my heart into a significant project, one that filled me with pride. After countless hours of dedication, I presented it to my colleagues. One of them, whom I considered a supporter, said with a smile, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." Initially, it sounded like a compliment, but the sting was in the tail, "for someone like you." What did that imply? Was I generally deemed incapable of quality work? Herein lies the dilemma. These so-called compliments are imbued with a subtle dominance. They are not designed to uplift, but to remind you of your supposed place. It's a power move, a way for the giver to assert their superiority, while planting seeds of doubt about your capabilities. The message is clear. I see your efforts, but you'll never measure up to me. This tactic is not only toxic, but also deceptive, dressed so prettily that the venom is almost undetectable. Those who dispense backhanded compliments are typically battling their own insecurities. Your potential and achievements intimidate them, so they resort to these subtle digs to keep you questioning your worth, ensuring you don't ascend too high. It's a common experience. At some point, we've all inadvertently let our insecurities manifest as a compliment that subtly undermines another. But the profound takeaway is this: you do not have to accept this veiled hostility. Recognize it for what it truly represents, a reflection of their insecurities, not an assessment of your value. When someone throws a disguised insult your way, like "you're smarter than you look," or "this is good for a newbie," you need not accept it passively. Challenge it. Ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" This approach compels them to unpack the insult they've embedded within their words. Often, it catches them off guard, making them realize you're not participating in their demeaning game. It's fascinating how quickly their attitude can change once they see you won't tolerate their behavior. Here's my strategy now. When I receive a backhanded compliment, I don't let it pass. I confront it directly, which forces them to reconsider their words. This tactic not only protects your self-esteem, but also shifts the power dynamic. It sends a clear message that you are aware of their game and refuse to play along. The bottom line is this: do not let anyone's covert negativity define you. Whether it comes from a well-meaning friend, a jealous colleague, or even a relative, remember, your worth is not up for debate. Genuine compliments should elevate you, not undermine you. If someone's words make you question yourself, it's time to question their motives. Life is too short to spend time with those who cannot wholeheartedly celebrate your achievements. Surround yourself with people who recognize your value and express their admiration without any ulterior motives. Next, we'll explore how subtle exclusion can be another revealing sign. The issue of being subtly left out of plans really hurts. It's those small things that hurt the most, like realizing that the people you thought were your friends forgot to invite you to dinner, a party, or a weekend trip. They might say it was a mistake, that the plans were made at the last minute, or worse, assume you were too busy to join anyway. But let's face it, these aren't just simple oversights. This is a form of being left out on purpose, and it shows that maybe you're not as valued as you thought. I've been left out like this too many times. Once, I checked my phone over the weekend and saw pictures of a group of friends at an event I would have loved to go to. Not one person had told me about it beforehand. When I brought it up later, they all had excuses. "We thought you were busy," or "it was such a last-minute plan." But deep down I knew the truth. If they really wanted me there, they would have told me about it. This kind of being left out isn't just forgetfulness, it's done on purpose. It's their way of showing they don't want you there, without having the courage to say it directly. They hope you'll just quietly stop hanging out with them without making a scene. It's a cowardly move, but it's also very common. People don't talk about it much because it's easier to pretend it's not happening. It's easier to believe their excuses than to face the painful truth that you're being pushed away. But here's the thing. If you keep accepting their excuses, you're allowing them to keep leaving you out. You're letting them decide where you fit in their lives instead of taking control yourself. I had to learn this the hard way. For a while, I kept quiet, hoping that maybe next time they'd include me. But then I realized that by staying silent, I was letting myself be treated as an afterthought. So I did something that felt pretty bold. I started calling them out. I'd say, "Hey, I saw you guys went out last weekend. Why didn't anyone invite me?" It wasn't easy, and it definitely made things awkward, but it also forced them to face what they were doing. And you know what? Things started to change. Some people got defensive, others tried to make up for it. But the important thing was, I made it clear I wasn't going to let them exclude me without saying something. Here's the deep message. If people really want you in their lives, they'll make sure you're included, no matter how last minute their plans are. And if they don't make that effort, then it might be time to think about whether those friendships are worth keeping. You deserve to be around people who don't make you feel like you have to chase their approval or attention all the time. Real friends don't forget to invite you. They make sure you're there because they genuinely like having you around. So, if you're finding yourself being left out of plans quietly, don't just ignore it. Face it head on, ask the tough questions, and be ready to hear the answers, even if they might not be what you hope for. It's better to know where you really stand than to keep wondering why you were left out again. And remember, you're not just an option to be called upon when it's convenient. You're a priority. Surround yourself with people who see your value and treat you like it. Kept at arm's length, literally or figuratively. Let's talk about a subtle yet significant issue: the avoidance of physical contact. This isn't just about romantic relationships, it's about all human interactions. Physical contact, like a simple handshake or a pat on the back, is fundamental to connecting with others and building trust. So, when someone consistently avoids even the most casual touch, it's a clear sign that they're uncomfortable around you and it deserves your attention. I once worked with a colleague who would almost recoil every time I reached out for a handshake or even a friendly pat on the back. Initially, I wondered if I was just imagining things. However, it soon became evident that this wasn't an issue with others, as they were warm and tactile with everyone else but me. It felt as though I had the plague. Over time, it became clear that their avoidance wasn't just a personal quirk. It was a deliberate distancing. Here's the controversial part. While some people are simply not touchy-feely, and that's perfectly okay, selective avoidance is a red flag. It's a non-verbal cue that something in the relationship is off. They might not openly dislike you, but their body language speaks volumes. And honestly, we've all been there. Perhaps you've avoided physical contact yourself because you weren't comfortable with someone, or maybe you've noticed someone flinching or stiffening up around you. It's awkward and a sign that the relationship might not be as strong as you thought. The deeper truth is this: physical contact is more than just touch. It's a way to express closeness, intimacy, and vulnerability. When someone deliberately avoids this with you, they're not just steering clear of physical closeness, they're avoiding a deeper emotional connection. They're keeping you at a distance, both literally and figuratively, signaling that there might be underlying issues in your relationship. I've learned to recognize these cues, even when it's difficult to face what they might mean. There was a time when I brushed off such behavior, telling myself it was just how the other person was. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became that it was about our relationship. Addressing these issues can lead to tough conversations and, in some cases, might even end relationships. However, it can also free you from the confusion and frustration of trying to understand why the interaction feels strained. So, here's the critical message. Don't overlook it when someone avoids physical contact with you. It's more than a personal preference. It's an indication of their comfort and connection with you. If you notice this behavior, address it. It might lead to a better understanding of the relationship, or it might confirm that the connection isn't as strong as you believed. Either way, facing the reality is better than living in denial. Remember, you deserve relationships where physical contact is natural and comfortable, not something that is dodged. Whether it's a friendly hug, a firm handshake, or just sitting close without discomfort, these small gestures of physical closeness are important. They build trust and strengthen bonds. If someone consistently avoids these gestures, take it as a sign that something isn't right. Don't shy away from asking tough questions and, if necessary, making tough decisions. Life is too short to be in relationships where you are kept at a distance. Colors. Let's discuss the stark reality of being abandoned when you need support the most. It's an undeniable truth that the nature of any relationship is most clearly revealed during a crisis. When the going gets tough, that's when you truly discover who your real friends are. So, what does it mean when someone vanishes just when you need them most? It's not merely flaky behavior. It's a glaring neon warning that they're not as invested in you as you might have hoped. I learned this lesson through a very painful experience during a particularly tough time in my life. I was grappling with a major personal crisis that shook me to my core. Naturally, I turned to the people I thought were my close friends, expecting at least some level of support, maybe just a text or a quick phone call. But what did I get? Nothing but silence. The very people I expected to be there for me had suddenly become masters of excuses. I'm swamped at work. Sorry, I'm just really busy right now. I'll check in with you later. Spoiler alert, they never did. Here's the hard truth. People often talk a big game about being there for you, but when circumstances become challenging, many disappear. They are there for the laughs, the parties, and the good times. But as soon as things get real, they're gone. It's easier for them to ghost you than to face your pain or discomfort. They don't want to get dragged down by your problems because deep down, they simply don't care enough to be there when it truly matters. Let's be brutally honest here. True support is not about convenience. It's about being there when it's tough, when it's uncomfortable, and when it's the last thing you want to do. Those who vanish when you need them most aren't just being inconsiderate. They are vividly showing you where you stand in their lives. They are effectively saying, without words, your problems are not worth my time. I was devastated when I realized that the people I had supported through their own crises, breakups, family dramas, career setbacks, couldn't be bothered to reciprocate when I was in need. It was a painful awakening, but a necessary lesson. Not everyone who smiles at you is really on your side. Here's the deeper message. Genuine support is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. It's easy to be around when everything is going well, but the true test of a relationship is how people act when things fall apart. If someone disappears the moment you need them, they are not just failing you at that moment. They're revealing that they were never truly with you in the first place. However, don't let their absence turn you bitter. Let it make you wiser. Use this experience as a filter to remove those who don't truly deserve to be in your life. Focus on those who stick around, who check in, who show up even when it's inconvenient. Those are the people who truly matter. These are the relationships to nurture and cherish. Ultimately, life is too short to waste on fair-weather friends. Surround yourself with individuals who will stand by you in the storm, not just those who are there to enjoy the sunshine. When you find those rare people who stick by you, even when the chips are down, you've found a treasure worth holding on to. And as for those who disappear, Let them go. They have already shown you their true colors. Next, let's address the toxic practice of gossiping. Gossip is like a social poison, spreading faster than a wildfire and capable of destroying relationships in an instant. The truth about gossip is that it's never as innocent as some people claim. When someone you consider a friend talks about you behind your back, they are not merely sharing a harmless story. They are actively sabotaging your trust, your reputation, and your relationship. Let's be clear, when they gossip about you, it's a blatant sign that they don't respect you, no matter how friendly they appear to your face. I have personally been the subject of gossip, and believe me, it's one of the most distressing experiences. There was a time when I confided in someone I thought was a close friend about a personal issue. I needed to vent, to unload some of the burden I was carrying, trusting that person to keep it confidential. However, within days, details of that conversation began to spread, twisted and exaggerated. It felt like a game of telephone where the message wasn't just distorted, it was weaponized against me. The person I had trusted turned my vulnerability into a source of entertainment for others. Here's the controversial truth. People who gossip about you aren't merely venting or sharing concerns. They're engaging in a power game. Gossip is a way for them to lift themselves up by putting you down, all without having to face you directly. It's cowardly, manipulative, and utterly toxic. They aren't just damaging your reputation, they're eroding the foundation of trust that any genuine relationship is built upon. And let's get one thing straight. People who gossip about others to you will likely gossip about you to others. It's a recurring pattern, not a one-off event. I've seen it too many times. Someone who delights in spilling the tea on everyone else suddenly becomes reticent when they're with you. Chances are, they're probably sharing your secrets when you're not around. It's a profound betrayal because it occurs in the shadows, without giving you the opportunity to defend yourself or even know what is being said. This issue became very personal for me when I confronted the friend who had gossiped about me. I expected some sort of apology, or at least an explanation. Instead, they brushed it off as just a bit of harmless chatter. But here's the crucial point. Gossip is never harmless. It's a betrayal, plain and simple, and it reveals much more about the character of the person spreading it than about the person it targets.